dog's life. And in Versus, it's Spyro, A Hero's Tale against Crash Twinsanity. Some of the games we look at in Reviews on the Run are intended for a mature audience. Please pay attention to each game's ESRB rating. All right, the first up, and I gotta say this old truck has kind of inspired us here. We're gonna talk about Call of Duty United Offensive. This is from Activision for the PC, and of course it's the expansion pack for the original Call of Duty.
Infinity Ward were the original developers of Call of Duty. This was being done by Grey Matter.
Who did Return to Castle
Wolfenstein. Exactly. Right. Wolfenstein was a great game. People had a lot of fun with it.
Love that game.
But you're always like afraid when a new developer takes something.
Yes.
You never know.
Good point.
Well, let me tell you something. This game has all of the great parts that Call of Duty had in it, but they added. You know, expansion packs are about adding, not just giving you more levels. The new stuff, for example, that you can do is you can get into tanks.
Yes.
And jeeps.
In multiplayer.
In multiplayer.
Right.
But they got this great B-17 bomber sequence. You know, flying fortress.
That's
Actually,
right.
You know when you're in the side cart to those motorcycles?
Yeah.
Don't you feel like a dork when you get in one of those?
Not in this game. I thought
Well,
that was one of my favorite levels in the game.
You're shooting people, but what a dorky ride.
No, come on.
One of the things that Call of Duty did really incredible, the original one,
yeah,
was that, you know, they dropped you in the middle of this war.
Absolutely.
And then you could pretty much have the freedom to go anywhere, do things, try new things, maybe not do it exactly the way you were supposed to, and explore.
This one feels a little more scripted?
In this game,
right,
not only is it more scripted, but they've kind of taken you out of that whole huge environment and huge universe. You feel a lot more boxed in.
Yeah, but it's the missions that they send you on, like for example, you have to blow up a bridge and knock out a train as the British commandos.
Right.
That is just so cool.
One of the things that was always impressive to me about the original Call of Duty was that openness, similar to what you get in a game like Halo, for example, or Grand Theft Auto.
But in the multiplayer arena, they've given you a lot more options now. The maps are definitely a lot larger than the multiplayer maps of the first Call of Duty. You've got you know, vehicles that you can hop in, and
it plays a lot more like Battlefield 1942,
which is fabulous. Another cool thing that they added to multiplayer is you get ranked for achievements and stuff, so you can actually see how you did against the other players out there, which is pretty cool.
And during the single-player mode, you actually get ranked as well, so that eventually later in the game, if you get a higher rank, you can actually start to call in airstrikes. But the one problem I did have, though, is that if you stray from what they want you to do, the designers, you like die right away.
You can't just trace
like
off into the woods and walk over
if you're like in a foxhole and you're supposed to be taking somebody out with a sniper, if you move out of that foxhole, they just phantomly, they just kill you.
We're not there yet! Move it! Go, go, go!
You know, one of the little other problems I had as well is it's one of those games where you have to save like every step of the way because there's so many trial and error and
war, man.
Dying.
It's World War II.
And
people
all
are
that
dying
stuff.
in World War II.
It got, you know, kind of tedious after a while. It's like save, die, reload.
Right.
Save, die, reload.
Right. It's still the Quake 3 engine that they're coming off of, and it runs beautifully on pretty much any, you know, sort of modern-day PC.
The explosion effects and the smoke effects. I mean, it's all
man.
About that.
And one of the things that Grey Matter is best known for are their beautiful flamethrowers from Return to Castle Wolfenstein.
Flamethrowers,
and you have flamethrowers in this game. So what are you going to give Call of Duty United Offensive?
I'm giving it an 8.5. I thought it was a really well-done game.
I love the whole Call of Duty franchise. I think they've got an amazing series of games on their hands here. I'm giving this one 9.5 out of 10. On the positive side, you get a bunch of great single-player missions in the campaign. The multiplayer is greatly enhanced by cool things like the vehicles, great new fog and smoke effects, and we love that flamethrower.
On the negative side, the game seemed a little more linear this time around. And it seems like there's a constant amount of just dying and saving and reloading and dying again.
Stick around, we're coming right back with a look at Evil Genius. We take games seriously. All right, I got a question for you guys. What would be the very best 3D shooting game starring a dragon? Well, that would be this game right here. This is Panzer Dragoon Orta for the Xbox from Sega. And this is the fourth Panzer Dragoon game, but it is really the third in the series of rail-type shooters that Sega made. You don't really have lots of freedom to move around and explore and do all kinds of, you know, typical 3D shooting type stuff. You're led along on a path, but what you're seeing as you're led along this path will blow you away. The enemies are very tough and very challenging. I'm talking almost Ninja Gaiden tough, if you know what I'm saying. There's 10 huge levels to explore, and there's some variety in the way that each of these levels play out. It's not always the same type of experience, but along the way, you're gonna see some amazing stuff. This is a great, great game for your Xbox. Go check this one out, Panzer Dragoon Orta. All right, we are back, and we are going to talk about one of the strangest games I think we're playing this year. This is Evil Genius, and it's from Vivendi Universal, and this game puts you in the role of a bad guy, like a James Bond-type villain, and your goal is to try to take over the world.
I didn't like this game.
You didn't like it?
Nope.
I'm surprised.
Tell you why. I don't like any game that is like a spoof of a spoof.
Right.
So, like, you know, Austin Powers, for example, is a spoof of, you know, the James Bond stuff, and they have the Dr. No with the scar and all that stuff. Ha, 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 Dr. Evil.
But listen, when you heard the idea of
like,
being the bad guy, like being a Blofeld-type character in a video game,
right,
didn't that kind of appeal to you?
What I liked is the idea of trapping people
there you go.
And making up all these diabolical ways in order to keep your base safe.
Playing the bad guy is a kind of an interesting twist on one of these kinds of games.
Unfortunately, the game is so tedious and so difficult.
So much micromanagement in the game.
Bland. That I don't even care. So when my guys finally did get in there and get tortured or whatever, for the hell I just went through, the payoff was not great enough.
I will tell you this, and I will agree with you. I thought the idea behind this game really appealed to me. And what's interesting about their approach with Evil Genius is that you're not really managing the squads and armies of people that you're building. You're basically building the rooms for them to operate in, and then they sort of go off and do everything that they want to do. What you do manage are the Evil Genius and the henchmen that you can pick up, and the henchmen are kind of like the hero characters of the game. They all have special abilities, and they can take on the agents that come to infiltrate your base and go head-to-head in the combat sequences and stuff like that.
But see, one of the problems I have, though, is that, like you said, you don't actually control all these little minion guys.
Yes, the minions do what they want to do.
You do have to keep them happy and micromanage them to some extent.
Well, the minions are useful. They run those computers. They run. They interrogate the people. They level themselves up so they become more powerful, so they can take over the world a little bit better.
Useful in that respect, but useless when actually somebody comes in and infiltrates your base, because they'll just walk right by them. It's like, where did the artificial intelligence go? Some of the things that you can put in the rooms, though, are kind of cool. Like they have the saw blades that kind of come up from the floor. They have
the wind machine,
flame throwing.
You always have to remember to put the pressure pads on the floor, though, or else the traps won't activate. And you can test them out with little crash test dummies, and you can see what they're going to do to the secret agents.
But one of the problems is that sometimes your minions, if they're in that area,
they'll falter.
Will go in, and that'll, again, slow down your progress.
The minions are pretty dumb.
But the reality is that once a room is complete, guess what? If you want to upgrade or change something in that room, you can't.
What are you going to give Evil Genius?
I'm giving it a 5. It's an average game at best.
I'm going to give it a 6.5. On the positive side, Evil Genius does deliver an original concept. Setting the traps and snaring those secret agents is actually kind of fun. And even though it doesn't seem like this is what the gameplay is going to be, building out a base is pretty cool.
On the negative side, the learning curve on this game is brutal. Tons of micromanagement, bad AI on the minions, all makes a recipe for disaster. And for a game that prides itself on room building, how come you can't go back and edit any of them?
All right, we're going to take a little break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about an innovative new game called Dog's Life. Ouch. All right, like you guys, I like Pixar, I like superheroes, I'm digging The Incredibles, but I got to tell you, this Incredibles GBA game, it's miserable. I don't know what the hell they were thinking with this thing. I mean, they have some great characters here. You got Mr. Incredible, who's got super strength, and he can pick up all kinds of heavy stuff and beat on the bad guys. You have Elastigirl, who has the ability to stretch out her arms and grab bad guys and trip them up and do all kinds of things like that. You have Dash, the little super speed dude. I mean, great characters in there, but they stuck them in this slow-paced, side-scrolling experience. It's so lame. I mean, you're just tapping away at buttons and you see the same bad guys over and over and over and over again. The environments get really boring really quickly. They don't even have a battery pack in the cartridge there, so you can't save your progress. This is the prototypical slapped together licensed video game based on a big movie type product out there. It's utterly forgettable. The Incredibles on GBA, I'm giving a 4 out of 10. We are back, and we are going to talk about a great little budget game. It's called A Fish Life. No,
it's not a fish
no,
life.
it's not a fish life. It's called Dog's Life.
A Dog's Life.
And this is from Hip Games, and it was developed by a company called Frontier that last gave us the Wallace and Gromit game.
Within 10 seconds, I fell in love with this game. I'll tell you why. The opening cinematic shows a nice little dog in a nice little country environment, and then the dog farts and kills a butterfly.
Watch this.
From that point on, I was hooked.
That's all it takes. A little farting and a little killing. And Tommy's like,
this is
whoa,
beautiful.
this is
It's a beautiful
fantastic. What I'm surprised about is, why hasn't somebody done this before?
I have no idea.
Why hasn't anybody made a little dog simulation type game? Even
I don't
in 2D,
know.
it would have been fun.
And can I tell you,
this is such a cool
that
idea.
even though the rating on this is teen, don't be fooled. This is definitely a game for everyone.
It is. That being said, there is poo and pee in the game because we're talking about a dog, okay?
I mean, is
and
this a
dogs are
beautiful
fascinated, like Tommy, with poo and pee,
And the
they're
great
going
thing
to
is,
search it out.
I have been talking about having a crap button in video games for many years now.
His holy grail.
People who've watched this show always know that I've always talked about a crap button.
Oh,
I
man.
now have not only a crap button, but also a P button as well.
All right.
And you can P to the left
All right.
or P to the right.
Get to a good point,
Well,
because
you know
I'm
what I
going to start
find
pressing the
interesting?
crap button here.
If you press the triangle button, you can go into what they call smell-o-vision mode, because dogs
Very
have a
important.
heightened sense of smell.
Which is great.
And what they've done is they've coded all of these smells with different colors.
And here's what happens. You start off, you're this dog called Jake, and you're in this little town, and you get picked up by a dog napper that also picks up your little your little doggy girlfriend named
Her
Daisy.
name is Daisy.
And they get carted away, and then but somehow you get to fall off the back of the truck, and now your mission is to go and try to save Daisy. So you run around and you collect all these little smells, and you meet up with all these other little dogs. And you get into these competitions. The more of a certain smell that you might get into this kind of tic-tac-toe, but it's a peeing game where you pee your territory to try to...
the P marking game.
The P marking game.
Who can pee the most?
And you try to mark your territory through the
You
thing.
see where I'm coming
You might
from
have a
here?
doggy tug of war.
It's a beautiful thing.
There's lots of races where you have to pick up doggy snacks along
you have
the way.
to try to get bones.
And the bones are what sort of stacks you up. It's like your doggy ranking system. There's definitely some compromises in the overall scope of the gameplay. There's some invisible walls that you encounter. One thing that bugged me about Dog's Life, though, man, is the constant voiceover stuff that you're hearing in there. It started to...
It's not bad.
Not only was some of the writing kind of lame, but the actual recording quality was tinny and sharp and strident. It started to bug me.
It's strident.
Yes, there's a word for it.
It was strident. Explain to the rest of the world what strident
Just really
means.
high-pitched and tinny and thin and
So if I look up
scratchy.
strident in the dictionary, that's what it's going to tell me.
Should be something like that.
I think he makes this stuff up.
Sometimes.
I love this game a lot. It's a great game to play with your parents or a little brother or cousin or something like that. I give it an 8.5.
I'm going to give it an 8.
On the positive side, not only can you fart, but you can pee and poo as well. This game offers a complete unique experience. It's a feel-good type of game that you can play with people who might not normally play video games.
On the negative side, there are some invisible walls in the game to deal with. The adventure's not that long, and I really didn't enjoy the music or some of the voiceover stuff in the game. It started to grate on my nerves. All All right, we're going to move from dogs and pooing and peeing and all that stuff that Tommy loves to talk about, and we are going to hit on a brand new cordless controller for the PlayStation 2.
I could poo and pee on that.
You could, and I wouldn't be surprised if you did, but this is called the Precision Controller for the PlayStation 2. It's a fantastic wireless device.
Well, the great thing about this is that you don't have that on and off switch like a lot of the wireless controllers do, because
Right.
I always forget and leave the thing on and
It
kill
has
the
an
batteries.
auto-off built right into it.
I like the way it sits in your hand.
Yeah,
as
the
well.
ergonomics are
It's
fantastic.
very smooth.
It doesn't feel that much heavier. It is a little heavier than
It's a little
the
heavier.
DualShock analog controller, but it has all the functionality, and it gives you all of that freedom. You're removing that equation of having another cable in your house, which is great.
And how about the little tiny, it's almost the size of a memory card.
I love that.
That plugs in
The
to
little
the controller,
receptor, the little
receiver.
It has a rumble feature in it. It only takes 2 AA batteries.
When you shove this controller down your pants,
Right.
and you got the rumble feature on,
Right.
you don't have those cords.
No more cords.
That get in your way.
And you have the rumble feature down your pants anywhere you want to go.
Exactly, because when you're moving around, you ever get hung up on a cord? You don't want to go there. I'm just telling you, it's not good news.
Oh, really?
And they're cold.
It is $50 US, which isn't a cheap cost. I mean, you could probably pick up 2, maybe 3 good PlayStation 2 games for that.
Right.
So what are you going to do? You're going to recommend this guy? I think this is fantastic. I'm definitely recommending it.
Absolutely recommend this controller. On the positive side, when you slam this puppy between your noochies, there's no cords to tangle up your nads. The design is really good. No more dealing with that on-off button.
On the negative side, the price of $50 is a little bit steep. And if you walk down the street with this controller in your pants, people are going to think you're very, very strange.
I wouldn't.
Stick around. We're looking at 2 platforming big gun characters out there after the break in Versus. It's Spyro against Crash. 5 of our favorite movie games. Number 1 is The Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. Number 2, Spider-Man 2. Number 3, Star Wars Battlefront. Number 4, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. And number 5, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. All right, welcome to Versus. We have a very interesting matchup today. These are 2 giants in the video game universe, and now they're squaring off head-to-head. We've got Spyro, A Hero's Tale, going up against Crash, Twinsanity. Now, what'd you think of the visuals for these 2 titles?
Well, I gotta be honest with you, with games like Jack 3 out there, and
Right.
Sly 2, and Ratch 3.
Okay.
You look at those visuals for the PlayStation, and you go, wow.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm looking at both Crash and Spyro and saying to myself, it seems like other games are doing this a lot better. And
Yes.
it's the same genre.
There's some really nice colored lighting in Spyro. I like the darker, moodier environments that Eurocom, the developer, put into that game.
And when you put purple in a game, you're pretty much saying,
You're in a good mood.
this is a good mood game.
Right.
I'm having fun
But
because
it-
I'm seeing purple.
And I also like that they mixed up some of the character stuff in here. Now you're not just playing as Spyro, you get 5 different characters that you get to play as.
That's right.
My favorite character that they introduced in the new Spyro game is a penguin, and I love penguins.
Dude, penguins are almost as fun as purple. Let me tell you this, though.
Purple
penguins,
Oh,
huh?
yeah. Well, anyway, Sergeant Bird, cool. He gets a jetpack, a rocket pack, flies around, blasts bad guys with rockets, and drops bombs. Crash, on the other hand, I think what they've done this time with Crash that I really enjoyed is they've amped up the comedy and the animation, the facial animations and stuff.
It's almost a little bit more cartoony as well.
It is a lot more cartoony. And there's definitely a lot better looking character, action-adventure stuff out there. If I had to pick visuals, I'd give it to Spyro.
I'd give it to Spyro as well.
Audio-wise, how do you think these guys stand up?
Well, audio-wise, I really liked the voiceovers in Spyro.
Hey there, Spyro. When I zap you with my wand like this, your current position in progress is saved. Also, you lose 1,000,000 brain cells.
Wow, 1,000,000 brain cells? That seems excessively destructive. That seems kind of bad. Okay, it's cool.
The script and acting
Made
was
me
super.
smile, made me laugh, and it's been a while since I've been impressed by the storytelling in Spyro.
And I also thought that the music in Spyro, although more childlike, was very appropriate
Yes.
for the visuals and stuff. Now, The music in Crash
Awesome.
is kind of interesting
really
as well
like the music
too,
in
because
Crash.
they kind of do this funky, almost Bahama-style vocal
Well, you know what it
scatting,
is? It's
you know?
kind of like the Triplets of Belleville. It's an animated movie from France. They also brought in a comedy writer to sort of beef up the dialogue and some of the...
I didn't think the dialogue was as good, though. I didn't like the voices as much.
Audio-wise, I think when you stack both of these games up, they're, again, not shabby, but, you know, very familiar to what we've seen in the past.
Gotta go with Spyro.
I'd say Spyro as well.
On the voice acting.
What about gameplay? How did you think the gameplay in these two went up head-to-head?
I found that I enjoyed the Spyro gameplay a little bit more because it's more of like an adventure and storyline type of thing, whereas I felt that the Crash was still a little linear, even though it is more of a 3D world that they've brought you in.
Yeah. The gameplay enhancements that they've added to Crash, which includes the fact that you're now sort of chained to the hip with neocortex, and you have to spin around to sort of operate elevators and open doors and things like that. You even get to snowboard on top of the guy. All that stuff's kind of fun, but it just seems a little forced. It also has a little Adventures of Cookie and Cream type elements in there. You remember that one?
Scares me, yes.
You hated that game.
That game.
I did enjoy that game. One of the things that drove me incredibly crazy with this game is that you can't skip through any of the cutscenes, and it just, because you'll die from falling off a ledge, and you gotta watch the damn cutscenes over and over again.
But I'll tell you what's even more annoying than that for me was that I couldn't go in the options and change the way the axis on the camera swiveled. I'm into this invert, you know, it's like the up and down thing in first-person shooters. You know, some people like this way, some people like that way. Some people like a little this way, a little that way, up and down. But in this game, you like a little that way.
I had more fun playing Spyro, so I'm going to have to give the gameplay to Spyro.
And me as well.
All right, so what are you going to give Spyro a Hero's Tale?
I'm giving Spyro a 7.5.
I'm going to give that one an 8. What are you going to give Crash Twinsanity?
Giving Crash a 7.
7.5 for me. So there you have it. Two old video game classic characters return with some pretty good games. If we had to choose one of them, though, it would be Spyro a Hero's Tale. Today on the show, we took a look at Call of Duty United Offensive. We love the vehicles in multiplayer, but be prepared to save your game a lot in the single-player campaign. It's intense. Evil Genius. Snaring secret agents is a lot of fun, but the learning curve in this game is brutal. Dog's Life. In this game, you can fart, pee, and poo. Can you guess how much Tommy liked it? But I found some of the music and some of the VO a little bit annoying. In Versus, it was Spyro a Hero's Tale, which features lots of cute cartoon characters to play as in the adventure, against Crash Twinsanity, which has the unique dynamic of having to play as both Crash and Cortex together to get through the game. Tommy and I thought both games were pretty good, but we preferred Spyro a Hero's Tale. You get 5 different characters that you get to play as.
That's right. You ever have a purple nurple? Do you know what that is?
No, what is a nurple?
Ah! Now it's purple.